We've all heard about the Carolina rig, right? It's a great rig that's been catching fish for decades and decades. But today we're going to talk about the Finesse Carolina rig. Let's face it, as anglers, there are times when it seems like we can't buy a bite and we have to change up our tactics. We've heard of finesse tactics and your Ned rigs and shaky heads and things like that. Well, the Finesse Carolina rig is one that is often overlooked, and it's a very, very simple rig, and that's what I want to discuss today. So what makes it finesse? Okay, really what it comes down to it, let me show you right here. What makes it finesse is, one, the fact that we have a very small worm weight on here. This one's a 1/4 ounce. Normally I like to use 3/4 ounce or 1 ounce, just a 1/4 ounce worm weight. And then on this nice long leader, I have 6-pound line rigged up with a sharp light wire hook. And this is a Baby Z2 Elastec with salt impregnated, so it's a little more neutrally buoyant. So it's set up just like a Carolina rig, but it has a lot lighter weight to it, and that's what makes it finesse. So we are not trying to power it through and cover a ton of water with this. With a traditional Carolina rig, I can just cover lots and lots and lots of water. Not with the Finesse. I'm going to try to pick areas that I feel are more high percentage and then go ahead and really work those areas over carefully. Just like you would with a shaky head or a Ned rig, you're not going to put a Ned rig on and shoot down 4 miles of shoreline. You're going to choose more high percentage areas. You want to approach it the same way with the Finesse Carolina rig. Now, another thing that makes this a little more challenging, though, than a traditional Carolina rig is the casting. When I've got my standard Carolina rig set up, I've got a heavy power rated rod. Usually it's very long because I want to move lots of line in the water. This is a situation where you got a couple options as far as rod goes, and you're probably going to want to play with it, mess around, and see what works best for you. This is a medium heavy, but it has a moderately fast tip. In other words, I got a little more tip to it. You need some more flex to be able to cast this lighter setup, especially with that long leader that it has on there. It can be just cumbersome to cast. There are some anglers that like to use your traditional cranking rods for fishing this setup. Just a normal, like a medium power rated crankbait rod, composite rod, and it's got a lot more flex to it, parabolic action. That can be a very popular choice as well. And yes, you can throw it effectively on spinning gear, but the rod setup is definitely going to be different because it can be a little bit challenging to cast. As far as the lures go, I like to use smaller lures, your traditional finesse type lures, and like I showed you this one here, the Baby Z2 is a favorite of mine, especially in the fall when they are keyed in on bait fish. But your small French fry, do-nothing type lures, your stick baits, Senko style baits would be good. Small little craws, a lot of your traditional Ned rigging type of baits. Any of those small finesse baits are something that is really, really effective on a Finesse Carolina rig. And it's just one of those situations where it takes some time to let it sink, and it's a slower presentation like most traditional finesse style presentations. Once you get it out there, leave it sit, and then unlike a traditional Carolina rig with a heavy weight where I like to do a side sweep, bringing this back almost like a Texas rig works really well. Yes, you can side sweep it, that was going to work, not a problem. But the reason I like to pull it like a Texas rig is because with this lighter weight, this 1/4 ounce weight, it will come up and over things much, much, much easier. That heavy Carolina rig weight, traditionally the 3/4 ounce, the 1 ounce size, will get buried up into tree limbs and things like this. With that light weight, it will come up and over it nicely. You can work it through brush piles, over rocks very, very nicely. And I also like to put it up with this traditional, more 12 o'clock retrieve because I want the lure to kind of undulate and glide on the way down. You know, kind of pull it up, let it glide down, pull it up, let it glide down, as opposed to more of your traditional just slide along the bottom type of a presentation. And that's another reason I like to use the Elastec on this lure, like this Baby Z2, because it is more neutrally buoyant and then it drops a little bit slower. So that is definitely key to the type of presentation that I like to do. Now, as far as the hook set goes, when we've got our big Carolina rigs, heavier lines, we can, you know, go ahead and move a lot of line and power into that hook set. With the Finesse Carolina rig, not so much the case. Like I said, I got 6 pound on my leader. So what we're going to want to do is just go ahead and reel down to it. Maintain pressure, and that's why using a really sharp hook is definitely key. And on some of these days where it can get really, really tough, and especially like now in the fall where you get those bluebird days and it just seems like you can't buy a bite, I think you'll be surprised what a Finesse Carolina rig can do. And like I've mentioned on many videos before, I'm always trying to do something that maybe others on the lake aren't doing. If it's a busy weekend out or you see other boats going up and down the shoreline, this is one of those oh, there's a bite right there. He came off. This is one of those presentations where you can follow up other boats and catch fish behind them. It's something a little bit different that not everybody is doing. If you would like to watch a video on how to use light line, I would go ahead and check this one out right here. And hey, don't forget to go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.